Johnson, it's Miss Couse, and I'm here because I need to tell you about this book that I just finished reading that I really liked, and I think you'll like too. It's called The Girl with the Red Balloon by Catherine Locke. And if you saw my Libby tutorial that I did about how to use the public library's Libby app, then you'll have seen that I borrowed this book. And just yesterday I got a notification from the public library that my book was about to expire and I hadn't even opened it yet. So I did a marathon reading session and I read the whole thing in one sitting, and I'm so glad I did because this book has a little bit of everything in it. It's a story about a girl named Ellie Baum who's 16 years old, and she grew up listening to a story told to her by her grandfather, who was a Holocaust survivor. And in the story, he told her that he was able to escape a concentration camp because of a girl with a magical red balloon. So Ellie has always been fascinated by her German heritage, and she decides to go on a spring break trip with her German class to Germany, and that's where she is when the story starts. In Potsdamer Platz, after listening to this story that told by her grandfather, she sees a red balloon and she decides she wants to take a picture with it to send to her grandfather. But as she grabs that balloon, she's suddenly transported back in time to 1988 East Berlin. So in case you didn't know, Germany was separated into different sections by the countries that won World War II. And the city of Berlin, which was the capital city of Germany, was also split into 4 different sections. The section that was run by the Americans, the French, and the British became the west side of Berlin, and the side that was run by the Russians was the East Berlin side, and it was communist. And that's where we get the Berlin Wall, was the divide between the east side and the west side of Berlin to try to keep people from the east escaping to the west. So this is a really dangerous time for Ellie to be in. But as soon as she lands in 1988 East Berlin, she's intercepted by these 2 rebels named Mitzi and Kai, who are part of this secret underground network of balloon makers who help people escape the oppression of East Berlin with magical red balloons. So the story that her grandfather had been telling her whole life was actually true. Unfortunately, Ellie's presence in 1988 is really confusing to the balloon makers because no one knows how she got there or how to get her home. And to make matters worse, there are more time travelers coming from the future to 1988, but Ellie is the only one that survives the trip. Everyone else arrives already dead. So Ellie and Kai begin to investigate what's happening with these time travelers and how the balloons are crossing time, and they start to grow a little bit closer, which is where the romance element of the story comes in. There's also this really cool feature of the book where Ellie's story in 1988 is interspersed with her grandfather Benno's story in 1942 when he's 17 years old. And it tells his experience in the concentration camp and in the ghetto and how he was able to escape with the help of the girl with the red balloon. So those 2 stories eventually converge at the end of the book. Another thing I loved about this book is the mystery had a lot of subtle hints sprinkled through, so much so that I ended up going back to read the beginning of the book again because there were things that I missed, clues that I finally understood once I finished the book, and I love when books are able to do that. So this book is a little bit of everything. It's historical fiction. It's fantasy because of the magic red balloons. It's romance. It's a mystery. And so if you're looking for a really great book, I highly suggest The Girl with the Red Balloon by Catherine Locke. I just returned it to Libby today, so go and check it out.